Okay.
Okay, I can see it.
Okay, so yeah, this is the certification AWS Certified Developer Associate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it basically checks or validate technical proficiency in developing, testing, deploying, and debugging AWS cloud-based application, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically we can say validate your actual skill related to AWS services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can go through the exam overview, right? So this category is associate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And exam duration is something like 130 minutes, right? In actual exam, right? And there are
Mm-hmm.
total 65 questions, and most of the questions are multiple choices, right? And multiple responses means, let's suppose we have one MCQs, but for that MCQs, we have to select multiple options, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it says multiple response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it total cost is 150 USD, right? But if you have a voucher, it automatically deduct 50% off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I will give you my own voucher, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can use it and it cut off to 75 USD, right?
Okay.
And there are many test centers that offer this CDA. You have two options, right? One is that you can done the certification or maybe take your exam in your home, or maybe you can go to some center, AWS centers that offer this AWS certification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So choose or select the option in which you are really comfortable with, right? But I definitely recommend you to go to the testing center so you can, you cannot find any type of internet problem or something like that, right?
Where do they have
And
this testing centers? Where?
Uh, this testing center are located on different locations. Let's suppose in Pakistan, in Lahore, Lahore is a city, right? In which we have, I think, 10 to 15 centers. So let's suppose if you are living in Austin, right? So you can search for the Austin AWS test center. You can easily find nearest one in your location, right?
Okay, what's the problem with
So
taking it online? I've never heard of anybody going to a testing.
yeah, when taking an online, there is some proctor in a call with you, right? But in exam center, there is none other person in the call with you, right? So, but before entering to the test center, some test person can verify and check all of the tools you have, right? And but in online proctor exam, there is some proctor in a video call, and also maybe if we found some glitch, internet glitch, so our exam may be cancelled, right?
That's
So
okay. I think I'm fine with that. I
that's
just did my Okta exam. Same setup.
okay.
There
If
was no problem.
yeah, definitely, yeah. If you can go to the online sorry. If you can go to the online proctor exam, there is no option. There is no problem in it, right? So you can easily
Yeah,
do it. One of my friend are also doing the online proctor exam. They didn't find any, problem, right?
problems, right?
Yeah. So basically, it's giving us some steps how you can do this certification, get to know the exam with exam style question. So you must know what type of the exam is and what type of the MCQs you are really supposed to comes in the actual exam, right? And refresh your AWS knowledge, review and practice your exam, assess your exam readiness, right? So it just gives
Hmm.
you some steps before taking the actual exam. You must, it says, must practice the demo test before this, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so this is some related, but we are going to start it our first lecture on the certification AWS Certified Developer Associate, right?
Hmm.
So there are some multiple services that include AWS services that include in the certification. Let
Hmm.
me check if I have note down this services. AWS something like certification. Let's see if we have some content certified. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is basically the actual plan that we are going to follow, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
are going to spend lecture on these particular topics, right? So it's an exam
Mm-hmm.
also validate a candidate's abilities like develop and optimize application on AWS, uh, CI/CD pipelines, secure application code, and data identify. So this is basically we can say main topics, and in these topics are multiple AWS services are included, right? For example, if we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about development and optimize application AWS, right? So in this particular, our EC2 instance, S3 buckets, or ALB, CLB, some services are included in this topic, right? And if we can
Mm-hmm.
talk about CI/CD pipelines, right? If you remember, we already spent some lectures on it, right? In which we discuss AWS code build, code deploy, code commit, right? So these
Right.
services are included in this particular topic, right? And secure application code and data, there are some AWS services included in this topic, like for example, AWS SSM parameter store that actually store some sensitive information, right? And
Mm-hmm.
IAM users, right? So this section include these services. And if we can talk about identify and resolve the application issues, so this topic is related to monitoring, right? Or we can say alerting, right? So
Right.
whenever if we found some issues related to in our application, then there is some monitoring service included in our application that give us alert, or we can say alarm at a meantime, right? So we can resolve this issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, okay. Let's move further. So this is basically exam content. It says multiple choice, multiple responses, and yeah, okay. And this is the actual content that comes in your exam, right? So first of all, it says development with AWS services. There are 32% of the content come from this part, right? Development with AWS services. And in development with AWS services, multiple services are included. EC2 instance, S3 bucket, CloudFront, ALB, right? Something like that, right? And 26% of the exam are comes to the security. That's the important one, right? Which you are talking about, that you want to do uh if your future field is related to cybersecurity. So
Mm-hmm.
you must it's really important to do this certification, because this certification include 26% of the part related to security, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
security, we are going to discuss the different AWS services, right? As I said, AWS has some parameters, or AWS CDNs, AWS WAF, something like that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in third part, one is deployment. 24% of the exams are come from the deployment, right? And in deployment part, we are
Mm-hmm.
going to discuss related to CI/CD pipeline, how we can deploy our application on EC2 instance, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And in troubleshooting and optimization has a content of 18%, means troubleshooting something like that, simple monitoring and alerting, right? Now our first domain is development with AWS services, right? And now it gives you a detail of related to these services, like for example, architecture pattern, differentiate between state and concept, difference between tightly coupled. So this is basically the actual developers application that have this type of the knowledge, right? And it says
Mm-hmm.
you need this type of the skills to understand these services, right? In which we
Mm-hmm.
are going to discuss related to some programming language, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no compulsion in it, right? If there is no necessity to you must have knowledge related to Java, C Sharp, or something like that. But it is really good if you have some knowledge related to any programming language. Like let's suppose if I have knowledge related to Python, some knowledge related to Python, then it is be good, right? And it is recommended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some knowledge related to APIs. Do you know what is APIs means?
Application programming
Yes.
interface,
And
I
what
guess.
is What is the purpose of API?
It is basically the purpose is for one application or system to communicate with another using language that is, they're sometimes built in different environments and stuff. So the API basically creates a
Okay.
one unified language in which the two systems can communicate with each other, the two applications.
Yes, we can say the APIs help us to communicate with other system, but the main purpose of the API, whenever some user comes into our application, they can access our application or enter in our application through APIs, right? So
Hmm.
whatever he clicking, whatever he paste the path in the browser, everything is API, right? Which user can access, right? And these
Right.
APIs are basically attached with our backend of our application or maybe the front end of our application
Hmm.
that basically send the response and get the response, right? So let's suppose if let's suppose let's take an example of e-commerce, right? So let's
Hmm.
suppose one user comes into some let's suppose in Amazon, right? So one user come into the Amazon and he first sign up, right? And after signing up, let's suppose he place some order related to some product, right? Then his
Hmm.
order response are going to store in some database, right? So
Hmm.
basically the APIs are basically get response from the user and after taking this response, give this response to database and database store this response, right? And
Hmm.
whenever some user come again into the same website, then the Amazon automatically remember that this user are automatically sign up. How? Because APIs are basically helped us. So basically, whenever the same user comes, it basically matched the user request in the backend with the database. And if it is matched, that means this user is already signed up with our application, right? So there is no need to sign up again. So that's how it helped, right?
Right.
And now it is some serverless application model. Maybe you heard this word serverless before. Do you know what does it mean by serverless?
Yeah.
So this word
There's
comes from
no,
server, right? So what does it mean by server?
I mean, like, there's no serverless means like the application is hosted on the cloud.
No, 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 no.
It doesn't require a server necessarily to run
Yes.
the
So
application.
serverless means an application that does not require a server to run, right? But in actual time, it doesn't mean it not running on a server. In the backend, there is some server, but there is some applications that offer us the serverless deployment, right? For example, if we can go to the AWS, right? And in AWS, if I want to deploy my application on AWS, I have two options, right? One option is that I can make the server and deploy my application in it, right? And the
Hmm.
second way is I am going to use some serverless AWS service. For example, AWS Lambda. AWS
Hmm.
Lambda is basically serverless service that give us the opportunity to deploy your application without any server, right? But
Right.
in the backend, AWS uses some server for it, right? But but these servers, we are unable to communicate with this server. We are unable to set up their memory of the server or any type of the responsibility are taken by AWS. We just need to run our code in that particular serverless services, right? So what is the
Right.
facility of serverless is that the user cannot interact with the server. User are not able to communicate with the server. So it basically give the user opportunity to spend more time in their application instead of managing the server, right? So
Hmm.
that's why this serverless application coming right now, right?
Like
Eh,
Google Cloud, Google Cloud
no, no,
platform
no,
as an example.
no, 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 no. Okay, let me
Yeah.
understand in very easiest way.
GCP would
For
be one
example,
example. You don't have to, you don't have to worry about managing your servers and all this kind of stuff.
uh,
You rent out
I
the,
I am saying just GCP is a cloud provider. GCP is not a serverless, right? Okay, let me.
Mm.
So let's discuss first what is cloud provider, right? So cloud provider is something that offers us the cloud services, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
many cloud providers. For example, AWS is also cloud provider. One is Google Cloud, and third one is Azure, right? And also
Mm-hmm.
there are more, but the main one is that three of them, right? Now, let's suppose I have some application, right? Any application, maybe e-commerce application or maybe gaming app, any type of the application, right? Now I want to deploy my application in any of these cloud provider. For example, I want to deploy my application in AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, depending on your requirement. Let's suppose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if I want to deploy my application on AWS, right? So for the deployment of application, you need some server, right? In which you are going to deploy your application. So every cloud provider offers you two type of server, right? Or we can say the two types of deployment options, right? One is server and second one is serverless. So basically in server one, we are going to deploy our application by creating a server on AWS or in Google Cloud or in Azure. And after creating the server, we are going to deploy our application in that server, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
can create any type of the server. Let's put Windows server, depending on our requirement. We can create the Linux server. If you remember, in last lecture of AWS, which I gave you, we actually deploy the front end of application on some server. Do you remember in EC2 instance, we are actually deploy our application. So
Yes.
actually we deploy our application on server, right? But
Right.
we have other option as well, which is serverless, right? That's mean you are going to deploy your same application, but without any server, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is some service. Let's suppose for server one we have EC2 service, but serverless we have a Lambda, AWS Lambda, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is basically particular AWS service, right? Which provide the serverless offer, right? So whenever we creating the Lambda, we don't need to worry about operating system. We don't need to worry about memory. We don't need to worry about CPU utilization. So everything is going to manage by AWS in which option? Serverless option, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we are going to create some server on AWS, then we are responsible to every management, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can give some memory to our server. We can select the operating system, right? But if we can go to the serverless option, then there is no memory or CPU utilization option for you, right? So everything is managed by AWS in serverless term, right? And for serverless
But
term,
Google
we have,
GCP also offers the same thing because my company opted into the
yeah, yeah. So
serverless.
basically,
I'm
Google
sure.
Cloud and Azure also give this same, we can say services, but the different name, right? For example, in AWS, our server name is EC2, right? And for serverless, we have a service with the name of AWS Lambda. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
Google Cloud uses using some other meaningful term for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the concept is same, right? So this is what the serverless is, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay, let's start it with the sum of AWS services. Let me log in my account. So we can use this. So first of all, we are going to discuss about some security services, right? And we are going
Yeah.
to start it with same IAM, right? We are going to detail discuss related to IAM. That's a very important services.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. He is asking, okay, MFA. Do you know what does it mean by MFA in it?
Multi-factor authentication.
Yes. So basically,
You require two factors to be able to
yes.
sign in.
Yes, you can
I
factorize
know
it.
the IAM stuff, basic stuffs of that, because I have the
Yeah,
Octa profession, so I had to study all this.
yeah,
SSO,
yeah,
MFA, OIDC,
yeah.
SAML,
Do
all
you know
these
what
con
is SSO means? What is the
single
purpose of
sign-on,
SSO? Yeah, and could
so
you
that you can
explain
use
this
one
stuff?
username and password. You can use one
Yes,
username and password to log into many different
yes,
applications, which makes things more
yes,
secure if you don't have
definitely.
to remember hundreds and
So
hundreds of
in that,
passwords.
yes, in that case, let's suppose you can see we have three accounts, right? So for three of this account, I use the same username and password for it, right? So this is
Hmm.
what the SSO means, right?
Hmm.
So let's suppose I am going to this account. Okay, so this is basically the console that comes up whenever you log in, right?
Hmm.
And if you want to go to some services, you can go it by searching, or you can go to your recently visited, right? So let's suppose if I want to go IAM service, so I'm just writing in the search bar IAM, right? And after that,
Yep.
you just need to click on IAM. Now this is the IAM, right? And this is the
Hmm.
dashboard of IAM, right? That give us some detail related to it. Let's suppose how many users currently I have, what is role, what is policy. We can discuss it one by one, right?
Hmm.
So let's suppose if I am going to the users, right?
Hmm.
So in AWS, we have two options to log in with it, right? To log in with our account. One is SSO and second one is IAM user, right? So currently I am login with my SSO, right? And if you know that this SSO user is managed by administrator of whole AWS account, right?
Hmm.
So we can't manage the SSO user. The SSO user is only managed by some AWS account admin, right?
Hmm.
And he gave us the permission of the different account and also revoke the permission of that account, right? But you can create an IAM user by yourself, right? You don't need any type of the permission from
Oh.
other person to create an IAM user, right? So let's suppose if you remember, I think we already created some days back some IAM user, right? And what is the purpose of creating the IAM user? Could you please explain?
So that we can give access to the right people at the right time for the right reasons.
Right. So let's suppose if I want to give you a permission of this account, how I can do it?
You can create a
Yes.
role-based access control policy where
No,
you
first of all, you have to create a user, and after creating a user
have
or
to give it a
during
role.
during creating the user, you need to attach the policy for what type of the permission you want to give this user, right? So let's suppose if I want to give you a
Well, first
permission
you have
of
to
this account.
create the policies and roles. You see those left things on there? I think you would have to go to those
No, 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 no,
and
no, no.
define those, right?
No, you can also create it on the runtime, or you can also create it before this user. It's totally your choice, right? But in actual scenario or in usually we can use the built-in policies for our user. Let's suppose if I want to give you a permission of only one service of AWS. Let's suppose I want to give you the permission of S3 bucket, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I am going to create a IAM user for you in which you only have a permission of S3 bucket. So how I
Mm-hmm.
can do it? I am going to click on this create user, right? And first of all,
Mm-hmm.
you have to give some meaningful name of that user, right? So let's suppose I am giving you the permission. So I am going to create the user with your name, Rafi, or we can say dev, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is asking us, do you want this user access to the AWS management console? If yes, just click on this box, right? And
Mm-hmm.
after that, we have two options. Either you want to create auto-generated password, or you can set the custom password for this user, right? I
Mm-hmm.
am going to go with the custom password, and that was Rafi 1234, right? Okay. And it says user must create a new password next sign in. So when I am going to create a user, and when you use this username and password, and if I click on this box, that means when you first sign in with that user, you must need to create a new password according to your own, right? But if
Right.
I am going to with the uncheck this option, then you are going to log in with that this same password which I just give him, right?
Right.
So let's suppose I want to create a new password in next sign in, right? After that, just go on next. Okay, so it says must include add history of forming misstroke character type, right? So we need to write some difficult password. Okay, next. Okay, now we have three options. Either you want to add this user to group. A group is something like we can say the group of permissions or group of people. And if you want to add if you already have some groups, you can add this user to that group, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that group that have permissions is already set by this user, right? And second
Mm-hmm.
one is something like a copy permission. Copy permission is something like that you already created these three users, right? Let's suppose
Mm-hmm.
EKS training, test, and this, right? So let's suppose EKS training has some policies attached with it, right? So if I
Mm-hmm.
am going to click on this, then copy permission means you are going to copy this user permission to this user. Means EKS trainings users permission are going to be set for the same Rafi user, right? So this
Right.
is the second option. And the third one is attach policies directly. This means we are going to set permission by our own, right? So I want to give Rafi the permission of only S3 bucket, right? So that's why I'm going to select this option, attach policies,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
Now, this is whole bunch of the policies, that is AWS managed policies or some customer managed policies, right? That the AWS offer you. So let's suppose I want to give you only S3 bucket access. So how I can do it? You just click on this attach policies, and after attach policies, we have this set of policies, and there are total 83 pages. There are lot of policies that is really built in, right? Now I want to give you only S3 bucket policy. So first of all, we need to search for the S3 bucket policies, and then we can select it and give the user to this permission, right? So in the search bar, you just need to write the S3, right? So all policies that related to the Amazon S3s are going to be uh, successfully filter out, right? After clicking on S3. So I want to give Rafi Amazon S3 service full access, right? So if I am going to click on it, right? So these policies are selected. And after that, you just click on next. Now it just give me the whole review what I am creating, right? So I am going to create a username with the name of RafiDev, and I set the custom password for it, right? And it says required password reset means whenever you try to first log in into with this user, it says you must have to reset your password, right? And after
Mm-hmm.
that, I select some permission to for this user, right? So I give Rafi Dev the permission of Amazon S3 full access, and the second one is I am user change password, right? I am user change password is automatically selected because whenever I clicking on the check box, so whenever you are going to first sign in, it says you must have to reset your password, right? And after that, just click on create user. Now it will give you username, password, username, and console sign in URL. So you need to share this three detail with those person which you want to give this type of the permission, right? Let's suppose I want you to log in this account by this username and password. So you can you please log in now? I am going to share this username password with you, right? So let me give, where is my, okay, right here. So this is the AWS account URL, and the second one is username, and third one is password. Please log in into your account, and also please share your screen so I will see what you do. Mhm. So now it says you have to reset your password, right? So this is the same where we check the box, right? So you just need to enter the old password and set your own password for it, right? Okay, so in this account, you only have a permission of S3, right? And
Mhm.
there is nothing you have permission of other services. That's why it doesn't give you a permission related to cost, usage, or anything else, right? So you only have a permission of S3 bucket. So how you can check either you have a S3 bucket permission or not? So S3 is a AWS service. So how you can search this service? By going to this search bar, right? Yes, yes. So this is the S3 bucket, right? So you only have a permission of creating or seeing the S3 bucket. So let's try by creating the bucket. Let's suppose just click on create bucket. Yeah, so it give you so we can easily see it that it gives you basically allow you to give create an S3 bucket, right?
Mhm.
So if we can go to the other services to just verify either we have a permission of this service or not. So you can go to any service.
Any service?
Yeah, maybe EC2,
What?
maybe VPC, anything. Yeah, now here you can see the API errors, right? That's
Mhm.
mean you are unable to communicate with that service. Why? Because you only have a permission of creating an S3 bucket. And if you are forced to creating an instance, it unable to create you. Let's suppose just click on instances. Click on instances. Yeah. And yeah, now it says you are not authorized to perform this operation, right? Because Rafi Dev is not authorized to perform EC2, right? Either you not able to see whatever the instances in that account, and you are unable to create any new instance in that account, right? Why? Because this user with the name of Rafi Dev has only permission of S3 bucket, right? So that's the power of IAM users, right? So whatever this permission you want to give some user, you can easily give him by just creating an IAM user and attach some policies, right? Now, see my screen, please. My screen is visible for you, Rafi.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're creating the IAM user, right? So this is the same user, Rafidef, right? Now, what I am going to do now, I am going to attach another policy, right? Now I am going to add your permission, right? And in the permission, I am going to give you a permission of EC2, right? Let's suppose just write the EC2 and yeah, EC2 full access, right? And after that, just clicking on next and add permission. Now I just added the one more permission and I gave you a permission of Amazon EC2 instance. Now you can
Yeah.
check either you are able to create an EC2 instance or see the EC2 instances or in your account or not.
Okay, let me check. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can easily set some users or user permission from this IAM, right? Now move forward towards the roles, right? Now we have here in the screen, you see multiple roles, right? So what is actually the role? So we already know what does it mean by policies, right? So policies is the set of permission you can either set to some IAM users or either you can set to some roles, right? But we don't know about the roles, right? So do you have knowledge what is role means?
A role is a set of permissions given to a user.
No.
User.
I created the user, but I didn't attach any role to that user. I just attached the direct policies to that user, but I didn't create
Well,
any role
role
for that user. Yeah.
a role is,
Okay, let me
yeah,
tell
a
you.
set of, you know,
So we have three of the services. One is IAM, second one is role,
role comes with a set of permissions though, right? Because without a
policies.
permissions, what would be the
Yeah.
point of a role?
So basically in IAM, we attached some policies, right? So for IAM, I just attach S3 policies, EC2 policies, right?
Hmm.
And in a role, we can also attach some policies related to S3, or we can say EC2 instance, any type of the permission or any type of the policy you can also attach with a role, right? But
Hmm.
what is the main difference between IAM and role? IAM is for user, and whenever you are creating some user, you give some permissions by setting these policies, right? But
Hmm.
role is not going to attach with the IAM users. Always remember that. Role is basically made for your AWS services. Let's suppose just see this example. Let's suppose I created a some server, right? EC2 instance, right? Now in this EC2 instance, I have many files. Files means let's suppose I created the Windows server, and in Windows server I have many documents, many software that install in that service, right? Let's suppose
Yeah.
in server EC2 instance has many files, and for example, I have some Words document, some codes, or other things, right? Now I want to store this EC2 instance file into S3 bucket, right? So I want to store these files into my S3 bucket. S3 bucket is basically this storage object storage where we can store the different object in it, right? So this is the same thing like Google Drive or something else, right? So if I want to store my some EC2 instance file into this bucket, I need to attach some permission to it. Why? Because EC2 is a different service, S3 is also a different service. So if we want to communicate them with each other, you need to some permission for it, right? And you can set this permission by creating a role. Do you understand? So basically, we created a role for the communication of two services or maybe many services, right? So basically, role is not created for the users, but for the communication of services or for the AWS services, right? Simple as that. And I am user is created for some users that you are going to give permission of some of your policies, right? So whenever you have a scenario, if you want to communicate some service with other service, then you need to attach a role with that particular service, right? So these service are able to communicate with this S3 bucket. If you didn't attach any roles or any permission to it, then you are unable to communicate with that particular service, right?
Oh,
So
that
did
doesn't
you?
that kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier when you asked me what is a role, I said that it is a set of permissions. Without permissions, there is no point of a role, right? Within an application, a role
Hmm.
contains a set of permissions that user has. Is that not correct?
No, basically, there is a difference between the users and role, right? So, user is basically a different term, and we cannot attach a role with the user, right? So, just remember that I am users has also set of permission, role has also set of permission, right? But the role is only attached with the AWS services, right?
Right, right. Well, what I'm
And
talking when I say user, I mean like an admin. I don't mean like an end user. I'm talking about a role would be a set of permissions that is assigned to an administrative, you know, user
yeah, this.
of that application
Yes,
or
so
that.
whenever we give some permissions or set of the permissions to the users, that doesn't mean we attach the role with the user, right? Because role is
Mm,
only for services, right? So we only
mm,
attach the role with only services. For example, let's see a demo, right?
okay.
So let's suppose I am going to my EC2 instance. Let's see if we have some instance in it. Okay, this is working on. So this is the some persons EC2. So let's suppose this is the instance, right? We can say a server, right? So now if I want to check if this server has some role attached with it or not, you can check by going to the action, after that security, and after that modify M role, right? So it says you does not choose any IAM role for it, right? So if I can add or attach some role with that particular instance, then this instance has a permission of all type of the policies that attach with the role. For example, let's suppose let create a some role, right? For example, go to your IAM. So I am already open this here, right? So this is basically roles, right? Let's create a role. So basically before creating a role, I just want to uh, give you some demo data. So let's suppose this is my instance, right?
Yeah.
Uh, okay, just open it. Okay, so this is my instance with the name of POCEFS, right? So let's go into that instance by connecting, right? So I want to connect this instance with my local machine. I can easily connect it by using the SSH client, right? But for SSH client, you must have a key pair, right? Which you can easily install it by creating an instance, right? So currently we have not a key pair of this machine because this key pair is only available for that person who created that EC2 instance, right? So we are going to connect it by just clicking on EC2 connect and just click on connect. So it basically establishing the connection, or we can say we are going to just connect with that instance, right? So we can communicate with it, right? So now my EC2 instance are open, right? Now, let's suppose I want to check this EC2 instance have some permissions, or this EC2 instance have permission to list or create a S3 bucket or not, right? So you can check by using this command AWS S3LS. So AWS S3LS means list all S3 bucket in that account. So it says unable to locate credential, or you can configure credential by using AWS configure. It says you does not have permission to list the S3 objects, right? Now, if I go to the S3 buckets, let's suppose I am going to this.
Oh, oh.
So this is the bunch of buckets, right? That located in my account, right? But when I want to list this bucket from this EC2 instance, it gives me error. Why? Because it says your EC2 instance doesn't have a permission of this buckets, list buckets, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how we can add a permission so that our EC2 instances are able to communicate with this S3 bucket, right? So for that, we can create a role, right? So now create a role and attach this role with EC2 instance, right? And then we will check either we are able to list these S3 buckets or not, right? So
Okay, but
that's
in
the
order for you
purpose
to
of the.
create the role, you had to have permissions that you gave the role, correct?
Yes, yes. You need to
But
attach some
what
permissions with the role.
basically what I'm saying is that a role is meaningless without permissions
Yes,
attached to it.
definitely. Definitely. So whenever we are going to create a role, we need to attach some permission with it. Let's suppose just create a role, right? Click on create
Yeah,
role, right? And you need to attach a service for what you creating the role. So in that scenario, we are creating role for what? For what service? EC2 service,
AWS
right?
or EC2, yeah.
No, EC2, because we need to attach this role with EC2. So this EC2 are able to access my S3 buckets. Currently, it is unable to access it. If I am writing the AWS S3 LS command, so AWS S3 LS command means list all the buckets in my account. So currently, it enable me to list this bucket. Why? because this instance does not have a permissions to list the bucket. So we need to give him the permission to list our buckets. So we need to attach a role with it, right? So that's why
Mm-hmm.
we are creating the role. So basically we are creating a role for what service? EC2 service, right? So just
Yeah.
search for EC2, and after selecting EC2, just go to next, right?
Yeah.
Now it give you a permissions or policies that you need to attach with the role, right? So I want to, what type of the permission I want to give this EC2 instance?
What type of permission?
Yeah, what type of the
We
permission
use
I
certain
want to give this?
buckets.
Yes, you want to give this permission to list my all S3 buckets, right? Currently, it is unable to do. Why? Because it doesn't have a permission. So that's why we're creating the role, right? And when we're
Right.
creating a role, we need to attach some policies for it, right? So basically, we
Yes.
are going to attach the S3 bucket policy with it, right? So Amazon S3 full access, right?
Yep.
So after that, just click on next and give some meaningful name to this role. So we are creating this role for EC2 instance. So we can name it EC2 role for S3 bucket, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that, just click on role, right? Now, okay, just click on, yeah. So our role is successfully created, right? But we created the role, but currently we didn't attach this role with the instance, right? So if you can go to the instance again and click, just press on AWS S3 LS, it gives you same error. Why? Because you created the role, but currently you didn't attach with your instance, right? So you have to attach this role with this instance. Then you are able to attach all this permission with that particular instance, and you are able to do your work, right? So how we can attach a role with this with that instance? So we need to go the EC2 instance again. So this is my EC2 instance with the name of POCEF, right? Sorry. And how we can attach a role with it? You just need to click on action, go to security, and click on modify IAM role, right? And
Yeah.
now you have to choose your IAM role. You just created. Do you remember the name? EC2,
Um, Bucket or
EC2 role for S3
S3
bucket,
bucket.
this one, right? And after selecting this role, just click on update IAM role. So after that, we are able to attach the role with this instance, right? So just wait for it. Yeah. So it says
Oh,
you successfully attach this role, EC2 role for S3 bucket, to this instance, right? Which is this one, right? So now we are successfully added this role with our instance. Now let's check, are we able now to assess the different S3 buckets by using this EC2 instance or not, right? So now run this command again. Here you can see that it gives me the result of it, right? So it lists all the S3 buckets in this account I have, right? For example, let's verify it, right? So this is the whole buckets currently I have. Now this bucket I am able to access with this instance, right? Training Sajad. So let's vote in the last here. You can see training Sajad, right? So now I am able to access my all S3 bucket with this instance, right? By using the roles. So always remember that role is basically created only for services, right? So whenever
mhm.
two services or three services or maybe five services, any type of the services want to communicate with the other services, then you need to attach a role for it, right?
Yeah.
So this is the basic purpose of creating a role.
Okay, so question here is that
Yeah.
for this exam, I'm assuming there's gonna be
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
multiple choice
Yeah.
and there's gonna
That's
be
this.
some hands-on portion as well, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so
So
for the
in the
hands-on,
exam, hmm,
for the hands-on, is there practice exams that'll let you do these hands-on use cases so I can practice? Because this stuff you can show me hundreds of times, but I won't
Hmm.
learn anything. I learn by doing it actually.
Yeah,
Like it's good
definitely.
to get an overview or look, see
Hmm.
you like explain it one time, but then after that, the only way I'm gonna learn this is to do it myself over and
Yeah,
over and over.
definitely, definitely.
That's how I passed my Okta exam. Is just I just did it
Yeah,
hundreds of like
definitely.
not hundred, but dozens and dozens of times.
Definitely. So in the actual exam, the exam didn't ask you to do a practical, but it is just a MCQs question, right? For the practice of this particular topics, you can do it or maybe by seeing recording, or you can also do it in the same lecture or other thing, because this is totally hands-on and we didn't have any type of the notes according to it, right? But let me make a scenario that may be asked in the exam, right? Let's suppose in the exam, maybe he asks you, we have created a EC2 instance, right? And you want to give some permissions to this S3, sorry, this instance to some other services, right?
Mhm.
So after that, he says how you can give the permission to this EC2 instance. Now you have 4 to 5 options. For example, by creating IAM user, by creating policies. Third one is by creating Lambda. Fourth one is by creating role, right? So you are going to click on by creating role, right? And in the
Yep.
other scenario, maybe he asked, uh, you want to add some other person, or you want to give access to other person to your account, how you can do it, right? So you have multiple options. First one is you can give permission to the IAM user by using the IAM service, by using the EC2 service, by using control tower or something like that. So you just need to click on IAM, right? So in this particular practical experience, you just need to understand the main concept, right? So let's suppose if we can search related to some MCQs, right? IAM CDA MCQ. So here you can see this is IAM MCUs. Just click on that. Okay. So which statement best describe IAM, right? So currently we are discussing about IAM identities as management service, right? So can you please tell me that which option best describe the IAM? So first one is IAM stand for improvised application management. No, because you must know the full name of IAM. If I am going to the IAM, here you can see the full name of IAM, identity and access management, right? So the first option is definitely skipped by just seeing this word, right? And we have second option. IAM allow you to manage users, groups, roles, and corresponding level of access to AWS platform. So this is the something that we discusses in our lecture, right? But before selecting or choosing this option, let's see other option as well, right? Third one is, so are you hearing me,
Yep.
Rafik? Yeah. So third one is IAM allow you to manage user password only. So it says IAM is only give you permissions or give you or you can only use for the user password only. And AWS staff must create a user for your organization by raising a ticket. So you can create a user by just raising a ticket to your organization. No, that's totally false. AWS IAM is managed by AWS, not our organization, right? And IAM service is not only used for the user password, it is also used for creating user, it is also used for creating policies, it is also used for creating roles, right? And these
Mm-hmm.
IAM allow you to manage permissions for AWS resources only. So it says the IAM service only used for set permission for AWS resources only. Means you can only set the permission for EC2, you can only set the permission for S3 bucket, all AWS services. No, IAM also give you a permission of IAM users, some other users, right? So B is the best one. That means IAM allow you to manage users, groups, roles, and other level of access of AWS platform.
Mm-hmm.
So this type of the MCQs you can expect in your exam related to IAM, right?
So
So
we can just keep doing these practice exams,
yeah,
and whenever a
definitely.
question comes up, we can actually look up within AWS. We can
Yeah.
go to that section of
Okay, okay.
AWS and play around with the
Definitely.
settings to look up the answer.
Definitely. So let me open the CDA exam topic. So this is the basically the main site. CDA exam topics where just give a minute, open it in this. Yeah, okay, this website. So all of the MCQs that comes into your exam are mostly coming from this site. So we have for for three questions totals, right? If we practices this total 4 for 3 question, we are going to easily pass the certification, right? So what we are going to do, whatever we discuss in the class, we are going to compare with this MCQs, right? So we can easily understand the concept, and then we can easily understand the MCQs, and we can do well in the exam, right? But we need to, but we need to, check either which MCQs are related to currently with our topic, right? So currently it is related to DynamoDB, Elastic Cache, Aurora. So let's check if there is an MCQ related to IAM. So let's check. This is the AWS Lambda. Yeah. Here, let's see if this is Kriya. So this is the related one. So just see the option here, right? So it says a developer design an application on an Amazon EC2 instance, right? What does it mean? Let's suppose a developer deploy or create an application on EC2 instance, Amazon EC2 instance, right? After that, the application makes API request to objects in Amazon S3 bucket. That means this application which is deployed on EC2 instance make some request to objects. Request, what does it mean by API request to objects? That's mean the in S3 bucket we have some objects, right? Objects mean some files, folder, right? And if this EC2 instance want to access this S3 bucket objects, right? So it says which combination of steps will ensure the application make API request in more secure manner. That means what combination of step means you have to select the two option in the set of these MCQs that give you access of this S3 bucket. So this is the same MCQs currently we discuss about. So could you please tell me that what is the correct option for it? So this whole meaning is that you need to give the permission of S3 bucket to EC2 instance. So it simply asks you how you can give it. So could you please see this option and give me the answer of it? So you just need to remember the set of steps currently we are doing in this lecture. Let's suppose I create for creating the role and after attaching the role, right? So could you please tell me that which option matches with it to give
Okay.
the EC2 instance permission of S3 bucket. So this is the same MCQs that relate to our current lecture, just we are discussing about. So here you
Okay, hold
can
on.
see that this is basically our main website in which our CD exam question are comes. So this is the question comes in every exam you don't related to CD. Come on, Rafi.
Yeah, I'm reading. Hold on.
Okay.
Um, maybe like create an IAM role that has permissions to the S3 bucket. It's B sounds about right, but then I'm wondering if it's more than that. Just like for example, C says add an IAM role to an instance. No,
Just
that's not it.
just remember the step we do just now. Let's suppose we just give the permission of this instance to S3 bucket. What step we follow? You just need to match these steps with this particulars MCQs. First of all, the first option says you have to create IMU. It is correct. For
Yeah.
giving for giving the
Or
permission, I just give you a difference between IAM user and role. So when we are creating a role, when we give to the permission to one service to other service, and when we creating a IAM user, we creating a IAM user for some persons. So in that case, we want to give EC2 service permission to our S3 bucket. That means we are giving a permission to one service to other service, right? And to
Mhm,
give permission to one service to other service, we are not creating a IAM user, we are actually creating a IAM role, right? So
mhm,
role
mhm,
is only created for the services. So first one is skipped, totally skipped, because we did not we didn't use any type of the user to give this EC2 instance permission, right? So that's why the
right.
first one is going to be skipped. Now read the second one. Create an IAM role, okay, that have permission to S3. If you remember, we did the same. We created a IAM role,
Yep.
right? And we
Yes.
give the permission to S3 bucket.
Right.
That's okay. Second one is the correct. After creating the role, what we did? Do you remember?
I
After
think we
creating a
assigned it
role,
to a
yes, we
group,
assigned it to, no, no, we assigned it to this EC2
the
instance. We
user.
attach
Oh,
this
the
role with
instance.
the EC2 instance. So let's see what the option is. Add the IAM role to instance profile and attach the instance profile to this EC2 instance. This one is correct, right? And so B and C is the one which we follow in our lecture. Let's see the D1. So D1 said create an IAM role, okay, that have permission to S3 bucket, correct? And he says assign this role to IAM group. Why? Why we assign this role to IAM group? We need to assign this role to instance, not a IAM group, right? So that's why it is not correct. And
Okay,
even
hold
says,
on 1 second. Let me read the question again.
yeah, sure.
The application makes API requests to objects in an Amazon S3 bucket. Which combination of steps will ensure that the application makes the API in the most secure manner? Okay, create an IAM role that has permissions to the S3 bucket. Attach the ESC.
Okay, let me tell you one thing, Rafi. Actually, it is really, really easiest one answer, but it just give you some type of the stunts by just adding the more description, right? So the MCQs is very simple one. It says how you can give the permission of EC2 instance to S3 bucket, right? So
Yeah,
these single statements are abbreviated into three lines, right? To
right.
confuse the reader, right? So we
Yeah.
just need to understand the main concept. So it basically says how you can give the permission of S3 bucket to students. So this is the same one we just created right now, right? So now you can
I
read.
think it's excuse me, it's C.
Yeah, see, and you need to check the two options. It says two options are correct.
Did I repeat that again? I'm sorry.
It says you need to choose the two options, right? Here you
Oh,
can
two of
see,
them.
right? That means in five of the options, two are correct, right? So
Correct.
C1 is correct, another one is B is correct, right? Why? Because if
Hmm.
I want to give this instance permission to my S3 bucket, I have to create a IAM role first, right? And after creating a IAM role, I am going to give the permission of S3 bucket. So let's see by in our demo. So this is the role, right? We just created it. Just go into the role. EC2, this one, right? So we
Yeah.
created this role, right? So now compare this with this question, right? Here is one. Okay, let me open side by side. Here is one. Yeah, okay. So we created this role, right? Create an IAM role, and we give the permission of S3 bucket, Amazon S3 for access, right? We give the permission this role to S3 bucket. So create an IAM role and that has permission to S3 bucket. So this is one correct, right? We did it. And second, after creating this role, add the IAM role to the instance. So you go to your instance profile. So this is my instance, right? And if you
Mm-hmm.
remember, I am going to this option action and after going to security, and this is the instance profile IAM role, right? Modify IAM role. And I attach my this role which I created and I am going to attach with this instance profile, right? And after attaching this role with this instance, I just click on update IAM. So these two steps we follow to give our EC2 permission of S3, right? So you just need to select these two steps, right? So what we do actually, we create a IAM role and give the permission to S3 bucket. And after that, we just add this role to with our instance.
Right.
And all other threes are the incorrect option. So now let's check either B and C are correct option or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says B and C's are the highly voted option. That means B and C are correct option, 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this type of the MCQs you can consider in your exam. So whatever your the I gave you the lecture, you just need to understand very conceptually so you can easily so your exam questions and MCQs are really easy, right?
Are the questions in the test gonna be the same ones, exact ones that
Yes,
we get in the practice,
exact.
or they'll be huh?
Actually, the question we just did from exam topics. Let me open
Are they
this
exactly
site
the same or
again.
are they just similar?
Yes,
Because if it's exact, we
exactly
can
there.
memorize it.
Yeah, you can memorize it, but the memorization is not easy for 443 question, right? So all the exams are comes into this 443 question. 80% or we can 70 to 80% exam are comes from these questions, right?
Yeah, but if we do it enough times, I can
Exactly
memorize
same,
them.
exactly same, right?
And the answer options are
But
the same too?
yes, options are all same too, even the numbering, right? But you cannot easily remember this 443 question, so you need to understand the concepts, right? So yeah, so if we did this MCQs by concept, we always remember that, right? So whenever if
Mm-hmm.
this MCQs comes into your exam, you can just go with the B and C option without any worry, right? Without any need further discussion. So that's how we are going to do in real time scenario. Okay.
Once again.
Mhm.
Once again. Okay, sorry, continue.
So this is the roughly the overview of exam and the IAM service, and we discuss some MCUs related to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, let me create a some plan according to this particular certification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can easily follow and pass the certification, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
second thing is that what about the website? So we are started working on it related to Figma design. So hopefully we can approach you in 1 to 2 days, right? And